Hi, welcome to the Andrew Buckle book review of Boys Will Be Boys, new edition. This is 1957, new edition 1957. Originally came out in 1948, and this is by E.S. Turner. You've got here, bang up to date with many curious new finds and even more astonishing illustrations, it says there. And you can see the sort of things: Sweeney Todd, Deadwood Dick, Sexton Blake, Billy Bunter, and many others. And I love these sort of books. There's very few books about penny dreadfuls and dime novels, those sort of things. Should be more, but I've got this one, Penny Dreadful and Comics, and that's got a lot of illustrations. And if you want illustrations, this is probably going to be better. But this one, I think, is actually much more comprehensive. Vast numbers of details about Spring Heel Jack and also the early Gothic novels and much, much more. And there's still illustrations in this. So let's just go through some of this. The Gothic Hangover, as it says there. So, and it's quite fascinating the way they did them. People would churn these out, thousands and thousands and thousands of pages of these things. Mostly, sadly, all now gone. And also the way that various people would like kill off characters, and then of course those stories would be just completely thrown in the bin gun thing, and some other writer would sort of start writing the same story. The publishers would just generate always anything that was not popular immediately disappeared. So you've got an example there, The Young Apprentice, now, or The Watchword, and there's a lot here of London. So if you want sort of London books, a lot of it set in London, probably not everything, but of course The Demon Barber. Never actually seen any fascination about Sweeney Todd, but of course there was the film, fairly recent, and no, as well as of course other things as well. Rogues and Vagabonds, again, highwaymen. So you've got a whole range of things. Obviously, they were very popular in the Victorian penny dreadfuls. And again, lots of mention. Again, another illustration. This one, Black Bess. Obviously, very popular there. And it ran 254 weeks. Quite a few issues. Black Bess obviously was hurtling along there. I think some of the illustrations are great because they actually show the time, the period. Obviously, when they drew them, they didn't sort of they might have used imagination, but they were using imagination that was based on what was around them. So you would actually get some really great. This one, Spring Heel Jack. What a great name, Spring Heel Jack. The Terror of London, no less. Not certain who that is anyway. I don't think that's Spring Heel Jack. Sir Roland. And I love this one, Jack Harkaway. Some of these characters are completely, apparently immensely popular, obviously at schools. So you had a sort of Jack Harkaway. I don't know if they've ever done a film or anything like that. One of those sort of things that would turn up on Talking Pictures or something. But I mean to run away, says Jack Harkaway. Will you help me? No, probably not. However, I mean, look at the list of books. It's got a nice long list there of all the school days, after school days, at Oxford, ventures around the world in search of the mountain of gold, in search of his father, and those sort of things. So there's a whole range of different stories that obviously were very popular, and I think they probably ran on for a long time. And also you've got here the boys' own paper as well. So not all the sort of like just titles of like Robin Hood or whatever, Spring Heel Jack, but you've also got those ones. You've got, actually I love the use of the word, the Halfpenny Marvel. Obviously not Marvel Comics, but you've got Halfpenny Marvel is mentioned there. Sexton Blake, Nelson Lee, not one that comes to mind, I must admit. You've got the Union Jack, and of course you've got all like the First World War, etc. The Odyssey of Sexton Blake. And recently the Rebellion brought out, the Treasury of British Comics brought out some Sexton Blake, and quite interesting sort of, Sexton Blake in mid-career. And there's quite a few volumes, you can get some really hefty tomes of Sexton Blake stories. Weirdly, I can't think I've seen a film or anything particularly of Sexton Blake. There's a picture of his Eric Parker portrait of Sexton Blake. Yeah, so that's that. 1927 celebrates the detective's return from the dead, no less. More detectives, obviously vast amounts of detectives that were mostly, of course, completely. Oh, there's Nelson Lee there. So you've got lovely. So, and again, all the sort of scenes of I love that chair. Look at that nice chair. Must have been quite uncomfortable. All that rounds, all those. However, the Boys' Herald. And of course you've got lots of like science fiction, sort of early science fiction, inventive, pure invention as it says here. You got here the Comanches, white shocks of the white man, but steam, whatever. Whole load of different stories. There was just stacks and stacks of stories Britain invaded, so you've got all, of course, the conflict between, and it says here, so fierce was the propaganda against Germany, chiefly in the Daily Mail. I love the Daily Mail. That in 1910, an American newspaper was prompted to exclaim, "It's a marvel that relations are not strained until war became inevitable." So just sort of mentioning that in there. Quite fascinating. It's got here all about spaceships, the Thorians. Apparently Thor, there was like this planet Thor, and you got the Thorians evacuated Earth in spaceships. All great stuff. Quite imagine it was quite thrilling stuff when you, I can't read that. And also you got the Magnet, of course, Billy Bunter, etc., all those sort of things. Oh, there he is, Billy Bunter in the Magnet. So there's quite a few illustrations, not a huge amount, but it's actually a fun read. It's one of those things when you read, it's actually quite humorous all the way, and there's actually a lot about the events as well. It's sort of interesting of that time. So it's quite a really good read, and it is quite jokey as well. Boys' Yarns, Wild West as well. So if you've got any examples there, obviously Buffalo Bill, immensely popular, Buffalo Bill, and also sports ones. Again, a lot of these things, of course, now you look at the comics, all superhero stuff generally, but there were vast amounts of interest in things like boxing. There's some boxing there. You got here Jimmy the Dodger, no less, in The Wizard. Of course, a lot of these magazines were sort of had one illustration, then you have a lot of text. It was very text heavy. Dick Barton, always love the Dick Barton serials, of course. And you got there, just mentions also things like Girl Swift, Robin, etc. Like I said, for the very young. And many, an Eagle even gets a mention in this, but predominantly Penny Dreadfuls, dime novels, whatever you want to call those, that sort of. But what a fascinating little book. Like I say, combined with this, which is actually more a visual sort of thing, this book is just this great reminder. So few books on Penny Dreadfuls. This one is definitely up there. Really worth checking out. So, boys will be boys. New edition, as it says there. Maybe you can get an earlier version. Maybe it's. But obviously, I assume there's obviously additional details because Eagle, of course, 1948. I don't think the Eagle, that was obviously a lot later. So they obviously updated that bit anyway.